Good morning, Muscatine. It's Tuesday. I hope you survived your Monday, survived the, I don't know if you guys got the rain that we did. We got a little bit. It was kind of nice for a change. You didn't really make it any nicer though. Typical summer in Iowa. We have a jam-packed show for you today, so I'm gonna not meander and talk as much as I normally do, even though I know everybody loves it. We've got three awesome guests for you today. First up will be Vision Center, who's celebrating their 50th anniversary. Then we have Muscatine Power and Water, and as always, they've got cool stuff to talk about, specifically on the water side of things. And then Kelsey from the Muscatine County Fair is here to talk about the amazing week out at the fair and maybe a couple of sneak peeks at next year, because it's already time to start planning. So with that, with me up front and first is Dr. Chris Scholz. How are you, sir?
Doing fine. Thank you for having me on the show. Appreciate it, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. So for those that may not know you, if you could just introduce yourself a little bit and kind of what you do out of Vision Center. I mean, I think it's kind of obvious when you've got the doctor in front of your name, but.
Well, sure. So my wife and I moved here in 1999. I did my externships in Rosebud Indian Reservation Hospital and then an Air Force base before I came. So I had a lot of training in ocular disease and the whole medical side of eye care. So I wanted to come to a place where I could be part of an ownership of a business, but also I wanted to find a clinic that was rural. I'm an old cowboy, I grew up on the cattle ranch out in Nebraska. And so I wanted to be in a rural ag-related community that centered on the medical side of eye care, meaning not just contact lenses, glasses, but more taking care long-term of all the different things that can hurt your eyesight. That's what my training was specialized. And looking across 6 different states, this clinic in Muscatine and Tipton and Wapello, the Vision Center PC, that's what they specialized in. Mm-hmm. And it was a perfect fit. We didn't have a house. We lived in Dr. Mather's house when we first moved here. We had a new baby that was 2 weeks old, and that was 1999. And since then, Dr. Patrick Walsh has joined the business. Yep. Dr. Tony Eller, she was already here. She came in 1993, and so it's 50 years. The business was incorporated in 1973, and I guess the first thing I'd like to say about my job, and I think Dr. Eller and Dr. Walsh should feel the same way, I wake up every morning excited and happy to go to work. I love my job.
I'll say this. So Dr. Walsh is my eye doctor, and every time I go in there, I don't know how it is, but he is the most chipper son of a gun. I mean, you can't help but be in a better mood when you leave, even though you've, had your eyes poked and prodded. And everybody, and this is something like going back to, when I was young, I remember every time you go to Vision Center, there's people there's people that are there to take care of you. And it's a long-term thing because they've been there forever and a day, right? It's what makes Muscatine, Muscatine.
Well, it's part of our culture. When we hire doctors, we're not going to be hiring somebody that is going to be, show up 8 to 5, go home. They get involved in the community. They become, owners in the practice. Their families get involved, and we look for people who like to be that mentality, volunteering, and that's what Dr. Walsh is like, Dr. Eller, and the previous doctors. That's always been the history of Vision Center. And then when we look for staff, we're looking for that same culture, and we're pretty lucky. Most of our staff, we give out awards for longevity, and we have a lot of awards at 15 years, 20 years, and even 25 years. And Chris Church, she worked there for 30 years. And
shout out Chris, family member. So.
Okay, yeah, wonderful. These wonderful people, and that's what we want to do. Is it's been 50 years. We want to keep this tradition going in that same culture.
Well, and when you say stuff like that, it's obvious. And I'm going to give you guys one of my experiences, just because. I'm a high maintenance patient, and what I mean by that is I can be a little scatterbrained when it comes to stuff, and say you wear disposable contacts and you look down and you have none, they always make it work. Even though I try, but the last time I thought I had a box, I didn't. They had a couple of samples, they got some ordered, and it's and it all just worked. And then when I forget to pick it up, I get a nice text saying, hey, don't forget your your contacts. But it's absolutely a culture because it's everybody in there.
Well, and there's a lot of things that go into that. And of course, as times are changing, we're looking back on what worked these last 50 years. What did the original founding optometrists do that worked, and what should we continue to do? And there's, as things are becoming more mechanical, and there's artificial intelligence and remote healthcare, we're trying to do everything we can to make that patient's experience as nice as it can be. We work Saturdays. We are on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Each doctor takes a week and they take their turn. And in saying that, what was I thinking as I was driving here? Who can I be thankful for? Why am I so blessed to have this career and my wonderful partners, Tony and Patrick? Why am I blessed that way? And it comes down to, we're really lucky for having such wonderful patients. This is a wonderful place to practice, both here and at our satellites. And the second thing is, we're so lucky to have such a good staff that when we go to work, people in our think tank groups talk about all their issues with HR and such. We're so blessed with such a wonderful staff that is so much fun to work with. And then the last thing would be all the sacrifices our spouses made for us, to do this. We work sometimes, when you start out, you're working 70 to 80 hours a week with those emergencies, and you get up in the middle of the night, and a lot of us have missed functions that our kids were in, and if it wasn't for those sacrifices that our spouses have made, it would have been a lot harder to enjoy this job and get where we are.
Well, and that is the one thing about being an owner in a small business is it is absolutely a family endeavor, even if everybody's names aren't on the signing line. You know what I mean? And it does take a whole tribe to make something like that work. And that's what, they're the ones that refill you when you've had a long day, but then, you can then pass that along. You know what I mean? Like it all works. If everybody has their own support, plus they have the support there. And again, it's noticeable when you walk in there.
Well, I'm glad that you say that. That's a big thing that's very important to us because, we are working for our patients. We're there for our patients, and that mentality has to be there. And so looking back, since this whole process started, Dr. Jack Thatcher, he was a World War II veteran. He was in the Navy, comes to Muscatine, 1958, opens up shop, and then he's looking for a partner. And there's this other gentleman named Dr. David Dick. He goes to work for Wolf Eye Clinic, I believe it's Marshalltown, 1969, the first optometrist who worked with surgeons. Back then, you had this division, optometrists, ophthalmologists, the surgeons.
Right. Yep.
They didn't really get along that well. And here's David Dick going to work, forming a relationship with Wolf Eye Clinic, because he's trained on the medical side, so he goes to where he can practice medical. Decides he wants to own his own business, moves to Muscatine, forms this partnership with Dr. Jack Thatcher. And it was the first professional corporation ever started by eye doctors in Iowa, by optometrists.
Really?
This
That's
Vision
cool.
Center PC Professional Corporation, the first one in Iowa. And that was in '73, and they were just over here, 120th East 2nd Street.
Yeah, like literally just right over in Francesca's. We're pretty sure that's the one.
Yes.
I'm 90% sure that's where.
So that was '73, and then around '76, Dr. Mark Mather came, and he brought another new experience with medical eye care. Dr. Jack Thatcher retired. They remodeled a couple times, and then in 1984, Dr. Brian Davis came. And they were growing so big that I remember they looked at different places they were telling me, inside Warehouse Market was getting remodeled.
we were just talking about that before the show.
Yeah, so they went from this small little office, and then they had a little side office where Burke Cleaners is now. They went to this 7,000 square foot office, 9 exam lanes, and you know what the beauty of that whole office was? Is we formed a relationship with ophthalmology, just like Dave Dick started with Wolf, and he became friends with Amir Arbiter. And Amir came to Muscatine, did cataract surgery, and then his wife, Lisa Brothers Arbiter, who's the daughter of Joyce Brothers, the famous psychologist, and she brought the first state-of-the-art no-stitch cataract surgery to this area, where almost nobody was doing that. She brought that in 1993 to Muscatine.
Wow.
And whenever we had surgeons come to these offices, they do the pre-ops, the consults, and do the post-ops, one of our eye doctors was always set to work side by side with the ophthalmologist. So the patients had a continuity of care.
Right.
And when the ophthalmologist is only here 1 day a week, we as optometrists can then take care of all those problems that the patients might experience if there was an issue or something popped up. And then we could always call the surgeon and say, hey, I've got Mrs. Jones here, this is going on. Because we had that training with ophthalmology, we still have that today. That is why we feel we can do so many things in-house instead of having patients always drive out of town. And so we're really lucky that way.
And that continuity of care, my wife and I spent some time on the Family Advisory Council at the university, and that is so critical to success because, if you're a surgeon, and I'm obviously not, and I'm just repeating what other smart people have said to me, right? But, having that aftercare is so critical. And like for you guys to be able to take that step and kind of go out of what is a normal lane to make sure that it works for patients, I can only imagine what the difference in outcomes have been versus not having it.
Think about what is the most prized sense that humans talk about. And they did a study, and by far, the vision, that sense was number one. People said they would rather give up 10 years off their lifespan or give up a limb, an arm or a leg, versus losing any eyesight. And there's so many different things that can happen, especially as we get older. And there's this thing called macular degeneration that's very common in Caucasians after age 60. And that is a very sad disease. And we're doing things with our kids, our teenagers, our young adults to help do things health-wise so they don't have to, maybe worry about that. That's what our goal is, not just take care of the eye disease, but take care of you till we're going to preserve your vision for your lifetime. And that's what our goal is. Do things now, protect the eyes, so when you're older and you retire, you have your good eyesight.
Yeah, it's funny. I always think back when you mentioned like eyesight's the number one thing. I had LASIK when I was like 19, 20. And when the blade or whatever it is goes across and they say it's going to go dark, they don't mean dark like you close your eyes. I mean, it's like gone. Mm-hmm. Even though I knew what was going on, I was scared to death. Just in that brief second, and then it went by and then like everything was fine. But like, I can only imagine, like with the macular degeneration where it's like a slow, what I mean? Like, vision, absolutely. Like you guys are like number one, like if I can't see, you don't mess around with it.
Well, when you think about how many times we have to take a driver's license away from somebody because they've passed the level of where they can, drive or pass the test, I mean, those are tough things. Those are things that are taking away somebody's independence. So I just want to say quickly, regarding macular degeneration, wear good quality sunglasses. Maui Jim's the best one out there. Prescription sunglasses are, top notch. Stay away from smoking. Whatever you inhale, those things are oxidants. They eat up the tissues of the eye. And then the last thing is just eat a lot of healthy vegetables, fruits, all those different things that are in there, those antioxidants protect those tissues of the eye. And then regarding protecting your eyesight, this is kind of a back to school month also. So I know we're here talking about the 50-year celebration, which is, by the way, Thursday, September 7th.
We were getting there. I was going to forget, but yeah.
So please come Thursday night. You don't have to be a patient to come to this celebration. We want to celebrate with the community of Muscatine and our satellites where we've been in Wapello and Tipton and the surrounding communities. And it's from 5 to 7. And there's going to be hamburgers, hot dogs, there's going to be drink. Contrary Brewery is making a special beer just for Vision Center with a name that I can't tell you yet. But it's going to be
so many things are going to get revealed after the show today.
No. Yes, and then we're going to have wine. We're going to have a band. Dr. Walsh's brother has a band. He's a policeman, and on the side, he has a band. We're going to have music from all the decades Vision Center's been around, the 70s, the 80s, and 90s.
Nice.
And so this is all at 1700 Park Avenue, September 7th, that Thursday. So we hope you can come. But real quick, back to school, because this is August. And I had a really sad situation where I saw a patient a while ago, about a few weeks ago. This young person, this person who's in junior high, 20/20 in this eye and almost legally blind in this eye. And this is something that if I would have caught this patient around age 3 or 4, I could have saved that. And it's called refractive amblyopia. It's a type of lazy eye where your eyes look straight. So people think lazy eye, the eyes are crooked. That's strabismus. And that is true. That's one type. Okay. But somebody catches that, grandma, babysitter, mom or dad.
Right.
But the one that is not caught is when both eyes are straight, and this eye has a normal prescription, so it's sending normal nerve impulses to the retina, through the retina, through the brain, so normal vision develops back here. The left eye, maybe the patient is born with an eye that's longer or shorter, so it's really nearsighted, farsighted, maybe a lot of football shape to it, which is astigmatism. Therefore, this eye, as a child, is sending a blurry signal, and then a blurry image develops on the brain. If you catch that before the brain is matured, which is age 7, you can patch, you can put glasses on, you can do things to get the brain to develop good vision from that eye. But if you put glasses on that left eye after age 7 or 8, the brain is now solid, it's formed, right, and you can't rechange it. It's left with whatever vision they grew up with. And this child had never had an eye exam. They had screenings at a nurse's office, doctor's right. office. And screenings are wonderful. They do catch a lot of problems, but 1/3 of the kids who have lazy eye passed a screening and it got missed, just because it doesn't dilate the eyes. If you don't dilate the eyes, do that full exam on a child, you can miss that. And this is 1 out of 20 kids, so there's usually about 1 in every classroom, refractive amblyopia.
Wow.
And they'll be legally blind then for the rest of their life. And they still have side vision, they can still drive, but it's just tough. They don't have the depth perception. So if I can leave you with some, pieces of advice for the community. Eat healthy, stay away from smoking, wear your nice sunglasses, but have that child get their very first eye exam dilated by an eye doctor around age 3. At least before kindergarten, but right. age 3 is the best. And we can do eye exams on kids. You can sit on mom and dad's lap, and we have these little lights. They don't have to say which is better, 1 or 2. We shine a light on their eye, and I can do that with you, Chris. I can have you sit here. If you didn't speak English, I would have you look 20 feet away, and I shine this light in your eye, and I can give you your exact prescription up to about 98% without you saying a single word.
Really?
Yes, and then we have a computer, part of your pre-testing where you put your chin in the tech. That computer also does the same thing. So the doctor can do it manually, and we have a computer that does that. Now,
wait, so I'm doing all that extra work. You're telling me that you guys can just
2%.
Do this? Okay.
That's for the last 2%. And we do that because...
I'm going to stress way less about those now, because he flips them, and I'm like, God, I don't know. They're both...
Yeah, well, we flip it 3 times, so you could have to give a wrong answer 3 times in a row. So that's how it all works.
I always stress about... Yeah, and I know that. I know that, but it's still that's the one that always gets me.
So that's how we do eye exams on people who don't speak English, or maybe are too little to speak, or maybe if there's a mental handicap. I used to go to the prison for years and do eye exams, and I'd just take my little handheld tools and I would prescribe glasses for those folks there. So age 3, at least definitely before kindergarten, 1 dilated eye exam, that's all we ask. And we do accept all medical insurances. Every medical insurance in Iowa, we accept that. So,
well, and one cool thing, Christy Roby was here last week talking about the back to school stuff and things like that. And one thing I want to thank you guys for was being a part of that. And
that's today, yes.
It is. I was thinking it was yesterday. Yes,
so
that
Vision
is today.
Center is donating some of our technicians, and they'll be down there at Christy's office at Muscatine Community Health from 12, and we're going to be there from 12 to 5:30. We even brought a couple of college students from University of Iowa who are donating their time, and we're all going to work together for this. So
well, thank you very much. And quick, you can go out, immunizations, screenings. They've got free backpacks. If you have any questions about your health care and you're not sure and you've got a kid going, just go out to public health today, and they'll get you pointed the right direction. And I'm sure they can schedule you an appointment to come get a full dilation and all that stuff. That's
what we ask. Screenings are wonderful, but just 1 dilated eye exam around age 3 and at least before kindergarten. Awesome. The other thing I want to mention real quick, do we have time? Dr. Beth Rep is, we talked about these surgeons, Dr. Mir Arbiter, Dr. Lisa Brothers Arbiter, then Dr. William Benevento, all these eye surgeons from the Quad Cities that have drove to Muscatine and seen patients and done surgery. They do 250 cataract surgeries a year. And so the surgeon we have today, since 2019, her name is Dr. Beth Rept, trained at the Mayo Clinic, excellent cataract surgeon. What makes her so special is her bedside manner. She's just the sweetest person you'll meet. And so she really takes good care of the patient. She calls them that night after their surgeries. But she started also doing something that was an addition to her workload, because she's swamped doing cataract surgery. But she knows there's a need for these people who have macular degeneration and they're getting the wet type, they need injections. Nobody in Muscatine has ever done injections. All the patients drove to Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, or the Quad Cities. And if you're 95 years old and you can't see very well, you have to call your daughter or your grandchild to drive you every time. So every 4 to 6 weeks they're getting these injections. And these injections are wonderful. This is called wet macular degeneration, where you get bleeding in your eye. And these injections were invented about 15 to 20 years ago. Before these injections, those patients lost their vision, all of them. And these injections have saved these people's eyesight. You can still have vision loss, but it's amazing what these injections have done. She's doing these injections in her office on Wednesdays.
Wow.
And that, you can't believe what that's done to all those people that had to drive out of town, find drivers, because it's every 4 to 6 weeks. Wow. And her hands are so steady. You can imagine putting a needle into the eye, and you'll ask these patients, because you can imagine the first time you say you have to go get an injection, they are so scared. You're literally going to put a needle in the eye, and she doesn't. It doesn't hurt. And that's why we're so happy that her hands are so steady.
Yeah, I've put contacts in for a long time, but I think that would freak me out. Yeah. That would absolutely freak me out. But so, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, quick recap. I mean, and this is, I mean, obviously, you guys have been around a long time, and 50 years in any business is strong, and to be such a part of the community is huge. And again, thank you and congratulations. And then the 50th anniversary celebration is
Thursday, September 7th, from 5 to 7.
Yep. So
at Vision
3
Center,
weeks.
1700 Park Avenue.
Yep. And everybody knows where Vision Center is, but if you don't, it's right next to Subway. Like Subway in Peking.
Across from Walgreens.
Yep.
And we'll have a tent set up, and come have some food, listen to a little music. You can take a little tour of the office. And Dr. Dick, he's flying in from Texas.
That's awesome.
And Dr. Mather's going to come in. Dr. Brian Davis is flying in, and the surgeons that used to come that have since retired, they're coming in. So
awesome.
A lot of the old staff. I'm hoping Chris Church, Carol Hughes.
I'm sure we can get. I'm sure we'll get. Yeah. I'm sure there's probably a handful of us could just like bag her up and bring her out if she doesn't want to. But that's family, folks. That's literally family. I'm not kidnapping people. I promise. But thank you. It's been a blast. And if you ever get bored and want something cool to read, go back into the archives of Discover Muscatine, search his name. You might see a cool article about a car and him.
Our big race. I do racing alongside my son and Sal Bianco and his son and Andrew Anderson. Our big race. It's 14 hours long. We have to build a $500 car, turn it into a race car. True race with neck braces, fire suits. That's this Saturday and Sunday. So So that's what it is.
Oh, yeah, awesome.
It's our 3rd year. So, awesome. Last thing, do I have time to say one more thing? I did a lot of my training looking for issues with diabetes, macular degeneration, glaucoma. If you have medical insurance and you have any of those conditions, dry eyes, pain in your eyes, allergies, cataracts, history of pressure issues, diabetes, or suspect for diabetes, your medical insurance works for your eye exam. A lot of people don't know that. And we accept every medical insurance in Iowa. And so a lot of people don't know, if you have pink eye, there's 13 types of pink eye, a red eye from your contacts, any of those things, you can see your eye doctor and use your medical insurance, just like you can at the clinic. So always, because we have those microscopes and we can look at the eye, and also if you have diabetes, get an eye exam once a year because it shows up first. If you're going to get diabetic damage, it'll show up first in the eyes. Just get that yearly eye exam. You can't believe what it tells you about the whole health of your body. Strokes, clots, different types of cancer, multiple sclerosis, high blood pressure, carotid artery disease. All those things, we are sometimes the first line of defense to diagnose.
And it makes sense. I mean, it absolutely does. And so, yeah, like we talk about on a lot of things, folks, the first step is always the hardest. If you have a question, just pick up the phone and call. Like, if you're not sure about insurance, if you're not sure about, just pick up the phone and call. And I'm going to bet that I know the phone number. It's 264-2020, right?
You're close.
Oh, 263. I always do that.
263.
I always do that. It's funny. I don't know who has 264-2020, but whenever I try and call you guys, I call the wrong one first. And I thought I was going to get it right. Son of a gun. Jeez.
And in our Tipton office, same way, 886-2020.
Yeah.
And so you bet. So thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely.
And
It's been a blast.
We're so blessed also to be in this community, and I can't believe I'm here. And it's been almost 25 years for me. So hopefully we can do another 50 years.
I think you guys can probably pull it off. So thank you again for coming in. Great to see you.
Thank
and
you.
we will be right back with Muscatine Power and Water. And we're going water. You are not going to want to miss this. It's cool stuff.
Rivo, the plumbing experts for Muscatine and surrounding areas, has moved. Our new location at 1109 Grandview Avenue offers spacious parking and a large open showroom. Employing experienced plumbers and carpenters, we specialize in remodeling entire bathrooms and kitchens. Imagine the possibilities. Stylish new faucets, sinks, shower units, bathtubs, and more, along with tankless water heaters and gas fireplaces. We also provide complete residential and commercial plumbing services. Rivo Incorporated. Call us for your next remodel.
River Rehab Physical Therapy. Feel better, move forward.
Looking for a fun-filled summer? Look no further than the Muscatine County Fair. Get ready for heart-pounding rides, mouth-watering food, and unforgettable memories. From Ferris wheels to tractor pulls and concerts, there's something for everyone. The Muscatine County Fair is where memories are made, laughter is shared, and fun fills the country air. Join us from July 19th through the 23rd and experience the best summer has to offer. Get your Fun Pass and concert tickets now at muscatinecountyfair.com.
I thought, how does this happen? Like, literally, I'm pulling up my notes. I think I have it. I touched the wrong button, and then he's like, "We're back." Oh my goodness. That's just what it is. We're gonna wing it. Holly, good luck. Hopefully we get all your stuff. No. So we did the water department. You came on, was it probably about a year ago, maybe, or so?
Earlier in the year, yeah.
Yeah,
Talking
and
about flushing.
and it's amazing how much there is to know about water. Like, it never ceases to amaze me when somebody from MPW comes on the show, how complex the things that seem so simple are. Like, turn on a faucet, it's water, right? It's not just that. But first, before we dive all the way down into that, if you guys could introduce yourselves real quick, and maybe just a little bit about what you do at MPW.
Sure. I'm Brian Butler. I'm the manager of the water department at MPW. I've worked there going on 10 years, and I'm really blessed with the job that I have there. I have a great group of folks that work with me, and like you said, our job is to minimize the impact on our customers. So when you turn the water on, it's seamless, that there's no disruptions, there's no issues that you have, and we like to keep it that way.
Yeah, my name is Nick Burns. I'm the manager of the control center at Power and Water. Control center is also called system control. Basically what that means is we're kind of maybe people argue with me, but we're the brain of the utility.
That's where I was going with it,
yeah,
and I was going to say it.
Yeah, so we kind of are. It's everything sort of funnels through system control. Our primary responsibility is on the electric side, on the grid, handling grid reliability. We are the one group of individuals who are tasked with maintaining our reliability on the electric grid. So a little later on, we're going to talk about power watches and power warnings, and that's really what we focus on. But we also we serve a lot of different functions at Power and Water. Aside from the electric side of things, we handle the distribution system. We maintain the levels in the reservoir for the water system. We handle after hours call outs, building security, a little bit of everything, because we're the butt in the seat 24/7, 365. There's always somebody there.
Which, you know, this is a little behind the scenes thing that I got lucky enough to see. I don't know if I should say this or not, but I'm going to. So, so obviously we have a channel on MPW cable. Most of you are watching. So we have a server out there in the server room. So, you know, I get to go back and work on it every once in a while. And first of all, going back there is like, you've got to get like triple screen through like 17 different things. Like, you don't just pop out and go, hey, I'm going to work on the server. It's like, hey, can I send, you know, but which is good. I mean, but one of the rooms you walk past on the way to get back to where my server is the control room, the control center. And I got to peek in. I don't know if I was supposed to or not, but I did. But what really surprised me and was so cool is, in some ways, it looks and feels like what you picture from like the 1970s movies. Yeah, like when you see like the grid's down over here, and like, I mean, that's like there's a big thing, and like it's ridiculously cool. Like
the most eye-catching feature in system control that everybody comments when they come out is we have a gigantic map wall.
Yeah.
And when I say gigantic, I mean it's huge. It's as long as this room. It's very large. It is a one-line schematic of both the transmission and the distribution system of the entire town. And we use it every day for maintenance and switching and things of that nature. But the 70s comes in that it has red and green lights on it that indicate breaker status. It is extremely low tech, but because of that, it's also unbelievably reliable and super valuable to us in the process. But it is the one thing that everybody comments when they come.
It is, and that is exactly what I remember, because like you peek in the door and it's just there, and it's like this is going to be a really bad, but even like the Chernobyl series, and like, not that we're going to have anything blow up or anything like that. They're not that, not nuclear, not anything like that. But that like. But also then, I mean, you see that, and then of course, like on the desks, there's like 16 million monitors, and like there's, you know, like they know that my internet's out before I do, right? But it's just, it's a fun little thing that if you ever get the chance to see that, I don't know how you could or whatever.
So when we do customer appreciation days, we don't do them every time, but about every other appreciation day that we have, we will actually do public tours of the control center. We don't physically go into the control center because there are regulations that are government regulations on how to do that, but we have a viewing room that's just right off of it with a large picture window. You can come in and you can view. Generally, I'm the one who gives the tour of that, so I'll explain what's going on, what the operator is doing. We've condensed it down to about a 15 or 20 minute presentation, but yeah, I encourage anybody when they get the chance, come out and take a look. It's interesting.
Then ask if they can show you where our little channel server is. It's this little box about this big and like 16 rooms of stuff. But I've got really good internet. So that was totally off what Holly wanted us to talk about, but tough, right? So the water department is, again, one of those things that it would be really easy to just like, oh, it's water, turn on. But like, when you see the numbers, the one that always jumps out at me is like 11 billion gallons.
Right, we pump a lot of water.
You pump a lot of water. Like, I don't even know how to like quantify that. Like, I don't even know how to think about how much that is.
It's a lot. I mean, about 28.5 million gallons a day on average. We have 26 wells that produce all the water. This is completely off script, but that's okay.
Yeah, you know, I don't even know why Holly bothers making these. We don't use them. No.
Well, so equally impressive, I was doing some numbers before I got here. I mean, we have 156 miles of pipe underground, which is about 800,000 feet of water main underground that we maintain.
That's like almost a Chicago. Like, it's nuts.
It's from here to Des Moines.
Okay, I was going east, but yeah, that works. Yeah. So,
which, you know, I mean, it's a lot of pipe to maintain, and you know, we have our crew that works. They're always on call. So when Nick's folks get the word that they think there's water coming up out of the street somewhere, he'll call in one of the operators and they'll go check it out, and they'll call back to system control and say, yes, indeed, we have a water main break. So they'll get the crew in and we'll call for locates, and they start working right away. And I think most people in town realize that we don't stop until the water's back on. Sometimes we have to turn the pressure down a little bit to do our work, but then we want to get the pressure right back on to limit the impact on our customers, and we start flushing right away to try and any disruption in the piping, the mineral sediment buildup, we want to get that flushed out right away.
Well, and I'll never forget this, and now that I say I'll never forget this, I'm blurry on a detail or two, but I have this conscious memory of driving down Hauser Street. I think it was like at Hauser and Fulham, roughly. There was like
Right.
like this maybe a couple years ago. There was
Right.
like a break or something. It was in the middle of a storm, and like the crew's out there, and I mean, like I didn't want to get out to go into a house, and they're out there doing everything. Like, I mean, I don't know what they were doing, but you just, you know,
You have to.
you're
have to do
thankful
it.
that it's not you and that somebody knows what they're doing. And
You know, I mean, main breaks, you can't plan them or schedule them. They happen whenever, and typically it's the worst time. You know, we've had main breaks on Christmas Day, New Year's Eve. That's just part of the job, and the guys.
Was it too much bubbly champagne going through? Like a little too much pressure?
We have a very dedicated crew of field employees. Being the person who is sometimes tasked with having to pick up the phone and call to get somebody to come out on Christmas Day, you'd think that'd be really, really hard to do, but it isn't with our guys. I mean, they take their work very seriously. They're very, very good at it, and they're very dedicated to making sure that the city of Muscatine has a clean, reliable water system. We're very fortunate to have them.
And that's one thing that, you know, I don't think we can hit on enough. And every time a group of you guys from MPW comes in, it's a nice reminder to know that it is your neighbors doing this work. Like, you're all
Right.
from here. You're all like, I mean, it's not like you have like regional crews that go around fixing stuff, whatever. I mean, like, it's not uncommon for you to see somebody you know working on this stuff.
sure.
And that is what makes MPW MPW, and what makes it even more impressive how well you guys do. But that's just my little soapbox thing.
You know, the folks that work for me, we talk a lot about the tools and equipment that they need to do their job, and we make sure that they get the things they need, not only to be efficient, but also safety-wise, because it's very dangerous digging 4 to 6 feet underground with water blasting everywhere, trying to maintain the ditch integrity. You know, so we have trench boxes that we use for safety, and we have the right tools to try and make the job as quick as possible. I mean, our main break average time is roughly around 4 to 5 hours, and that includes getting locates in. And
Now, see, I find that funny because my son fixed a water main break at Customer Appreciation Day like 2 years ago in like 5 minutes. It wasn't even that. So what takes 4 to 5 hours? I mean, like literally, like he just slid it over and it was done.
Right. Well, first of all, we cannot dig until we get locates. So Nick's folks call, Iowa One call, and they have an emergency number, so they'll get the locators in the middle of the night, and sometimes there's a little delay to locate. You know, we don't want to hit a gas main, so we make sure that it's
probably a good idea.
The site is cleared, and we know where all the utilities are before
And probably
we dig.
just don't hit an internet cable.
That would be worse.
Right.
That might
We're always amazed by the fact that the power can go out, and the first call we take is somebody saying, I don't have any internet. We'll say, I don't show that you have any power. Oh yeah, that too. But the internet is what people notice first, always.
Right.
Sounds about right. So, real quick, water main breaks, what all like causes those, like that make you go out in the middle of?
Well, there's a number of factors, and it's hard to determine the exact factor because the pipe's 4 to 5 feet underground. But typically, you know, in the wintertime when you get the thaw or the freezing and thawing that happens with the ground. So say we get a heavy cold spell where it gets below zero quickly. Sometimes that frost can make the ground shift, and most of our older water mains are cast iron, so they don't take that movement of the ground very well. And same thing goes in the summertime when we get that excessive heat where, you know, you see cracks in your front yard in the dirt. Well, that same type of movement is happening below ground too, which takes its toll on the pipes. Yeah, and so if you get really a long period of heat, that's not very good, and, you know, a long period of cold. And I'll be honest with you too, we have some areas in town where the soil's corrosive, and so it eats away at the pipe a little bit over time, and it makes the pipe not as strong. And so the combination of movement of the ground and aggressive soils will get a hole in the pipe, and that's usually an indicator.
Just that kind of stuff always like blows my mind, because it's stuff that as soon as you say it, I sit here and go, oh, well, yeah, that makes sense. I would have never thought, like, it's a pipe, it's iron, you put it down, life's fine, but it's not just that easy.
It depends too on, a lot of times, people will say, well, the old pipes. Well, some of our best pipes are the older pipes that are 100 years old, the cast iron that's 3/4 of an inch thick pipe, especially in the older part of town. We haven't experienced a lot of main breaks. To be honest with you, you mentioned Hauser Street. We were having a number of breaks along Hauser and Folium a few years ago, and we decided to do an emergency water main replacement where we tried to identify the worst area, and we replaced that with PVC pipe right there on the spot. We got board approval and we went right at it. And a lot of times, our projects are projects that we plan, we come up with a cost estimate, we submit it with our operating budget to the board of trustees, and then they approve it, and so there's a process. Well, we also sometimes have to work on the fly, and in that case we did. Yeah,
which is cool. I got, last year I got to interview several of the board members and stuff like that for the anniversary celebration. And, again, that's local control. That is
exactly it.
It's not like you've got to wait to decide if fixing the water is a good idea or not. Like, literally everybody's here and like, yeah, fix it and move on and you go, right? So when that happens, what are some of the things that are common, like, for people to experience, like, after a water main break? Like, isn't that a lot of times when you get like some discoloration of the water?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're turning the pressure down. We're changing the flow characteristics of the piping underground in that area. So anytime when you change the flow or you reduce or increase velocity, you're going to get sediment that gets stirred up. And then so as soon as we fix the break, like your son did, it's kind of funny that you get on site there and there's water spraying everywhere, and then all of a sudden that repair band goes on, and then it's like, all the excitement's over with.
It is, and that's cool. Like, real quick, next Customer Appreciation Day, if you haven't seen this, I'm sure they'll have it.
We will.
They have a huge pipe that's got a hole in it, and they crank up the pressure, and it's shooting out probably 10 feet or so, right? And they've got a sleeve that's ready to go on and fix it, and the kids get to like slide it down and then use like an impact drill, I assume driver is what it is, and it seals it down. And is it metal on metal? I mean,
there's a rubber gasket.
There is a rubber gasket. Yeah. Okay,
so it's a stainless steel band with a rubber gasket.
And like literally, as it tightens down, you see it. Like whenever you squeeze something, like it just goes, and then done, gone, and like he was like, whoa.
And it's done.
Yeah.
Right. But then in the field, when we do that, then we have, the rest of the job is starting to flush and clean up and try and get the site back together, and make sure that, we get our signage up so folks know that there's an uneven surface in the road. We fill it with road rock, and then we hire a local contractor to do the concrete work for us and get back to normal.
And so, like, if somebody sees water like that with that sediment in it, that's like that light brown kind of thing.
Right.
You just let it run, right?
Correct. It's iron and manganese, and that's in our source water, and it's we feed phosphate to keep that sequestered and not disrupt our customers' homes. But when we have buildup that settles out in the bottom of the water main, whenever you change the flow, it's going to stir that up. So it's just discoloration. That let it run for about 15 minutes or so, especially if you're in an area that that your pressure was down. Don't run your hot water, because that'll pull the sediment into your hot water heater. Just run the cold water. But it's still safe though, right? Like, yeah, I would. It's safe. It's not aesthetically. It's not good, but
right. It's like if you happen to drink it and didn't realize it, it's not like you're gonna
no. But it's just one of those things. It's part of the maintenance of our system, and that's what customers can do to help, is to let the water run a little bit. And it usually clears up right away. And if it doesn't, call 263-2631, and we'll get somebody out there.
I'll say this, between you guys and Vision Center, you guys have got the easiest phone numbers. Theirs, I constantly flip, and I call the wrong one, and then I call the right one. But you guys, I always get it right. They probably hate it when I call, but I broke my internet again. I may have cut the wire with a tractor. It wasn't me, it was my father-in-law. But that's a thing, right?
That's right.
So, and one of the cool like things that as we almost alluded to when we were talking about the big wall map, this all integrates into the GIS system, right? So you guys know, like I assume there's sensors out there for a lot of this stuff, like on the valves, maybe?
No, actually.
Close? No, totally wrong.
No, I mean,
No.
but even cooler than that is our operators have tablets they take in the field, and so they can, whenever we do any work, they usually get a GPS shot on, say, like a new valve or a hydrant, and they can automatically load that to our mapping system in the field, and it's real time. It changes the mapping system to show the new component.
It's such an amazing, we've had the Magic folks on before and talked about how unique what you guys have done is, because Magic is and I'm probably going to screw this up, but it was originally like a combination of like you guys, the county, the city, and
Right.
like everybody went together to like pull it off.
Right.
And it kind of lives with you guys now, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. But everybody has access to it, and then you guys just started building on it to do this cool stuff, which I'm a nerd, I'll admit it, and it's exciting is not quite the right word. Impressive, like it's just
Right. What I think is unique is that Mark Arrington is our GIS manager, and his office is just down from mine, and he's exposed to the work that we do, the utilities, the water, the electricity, the communications, and he's able to leverage his knowledge of GIS for specific applications for our utility. And I think it's difficult for a consultant that doesn't really see what happens in the field or understands or talks with the folks that do it every day, whereas Mark and his crew and his folks are exposed to that, and they go on site, they see what's happening in the field, they work with everybody in the utility to make sure we're using GIS as much as we can.
It allows them to be creative.
Right, for
and
sure.
That's, and what's cool, I think, and I don't know, I think this would maybe play into like when you get like into the power warning watch area, where there's like, I assume that's mostly like when it's like super hot, something kind of like that, where you might have like some load issues. You can rely on all this to help figure out what you should be telling everybody to do, right?
Yeah, for sure. And talking about power watches and warnings, you're right. It is primarily areas of high heat or extreme cold, but it isn't. We go on high alert really summers and the peak of winter. It used to just be summers, but we've started to see a transition where the demand for energy is as high in the winter as it is in the summer. It used to be air conditioning load is what would really drive our demand up. Now we're seeing it as much in the winter as we are in the summer. But it could honestly, power watches and warnings could happen at any time. It's to jump ahead a little in Holly's notes, but the power system is the only system that I'm aware of where a commodity is both generated and consumed at the exact same time, right?
Yeah.
So every time you turn on your hair dryer, somewhere on the system there's a power generating plant that's ramping up to match that demand. It's a constant balance of if demand goes up, generation rises to meet it. If demand goes down, generation drops to meet it, maintaining that balance.
That always blows my mind.
It's unbelievable. It really is. And when you think of the large scale that it's on, we're not talking about this is just Muscatine that does this. Muscatine is part of a much larger grid, a much larger machine that is the entire North American power grid, and it's a constant balance. The power watches and warnings happen when that demand gets to a point where the supply is in danger of not being able to match it. You have two ways that you can bring the system back into balance. That's either by ramping up generation, or if you don't have any more, by decreasing load. So power watches, I always, in my brain, I think of it like this. The power watch is the first shot across the bow that says things are getting tight.
Mm-hmm.
This is our opportunity to voluntarily start scaling back on a few things. Diminishing our usage a bit in order to help out the larger system. A power warning is when things are a little more serious. That is when what we would refer to in system control as load shed is a little more eminent. Now, load shed is a term for us manually decreasing the load of the system of Muscatine, and unfortunately that means cutting power to some of our customers, be them commercial, industrial, or residential, which incidentally we've never done, and I don't think we have plans. I don't think it's likely to happen anytime soon. But
Right,
this
and
is
that, I was
more
just
of
going to
a-
mention that because
yeah.
that's not something that, when we talk about this kind of stuff, like, we talk about it so that everybody knows that there's
Yes.
plans. You know what I mean? But then you don't want to scare people into something that's not necessarily I don't want to say it's not a reality, because of course it could happen, but it's not a likely reality.
Well, why would you run a fire drill in a school? Is it because you're planning on having a fire? No, but it's because if you do have a fire, you need to be ready. So we have these conversations, and we do these things as far as a public outreach, not because we're anticipating these things necessarily happening, but when they do happen, there are things the public can do to lessen the impact, to play a role. It might seem like leaving the bathroom light on isn't that big of a deal, but every little bit that you can do, raising your thermostat by 2 degrees if it's hot out so the air conditioner doesn't cycle quite as often, waiting until after 8 o'clock to do laundry, or things that are electric appliances that are a little more high intensity, doing those during what we refer to as non-peak hours, but in the evening after most commercial businesses have shut down and the demand for air conditioning load is less, can really make a difference in the overall scheme of things.
And it absolutely makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's not to say like, oh, it's hot out, there might be a problem, just go turn down. It's not that at all. Like, you guys do a great job of, like, whenever there's a situation like that, like, we get messages saying, hey, can you put this, and like, you communicate it everywhere. I would assume you could put it in the new app.
Yep.
And
Yep.
you know what I mean? Like,
The Smart Hub.
The Smart Hub, yeah. And so you guys can, and with that comes perspective, right? Like, you guys always do a great job of like, hey, this might be coming. You could do this. Don't panic yet. It's not World War III. Like, it's always it's a calm, reassuring thing to know that somebody's got their hand on the wheel when you're coming into a curve.
Right.
So,
that's not to toot our own horn, but it's kind of what we're here to do. Because of MPW's continued investment in having on-site, dependable, dispatchable generation resources, it really puts us in a position to be a benefit to the overall electric grid when these types of things happen. We have more on-site generation than we have loaded at our highest peak point. So it allows us not just to support the local community and generate our own power that we provide to our customers, but also then to export some of that power out on the grid to help our neighbors. And we're really well positioned because of the planning that's gone into it and the commitment that we've shown to being both a generating utility as well as a load serving entity. And that's it's not something that every community has.
no, and that goes back, go check out the 100th anniversary special edition we did. I mean, that goes back into the 70s and 80s, making these commitments to large plant, to making that commitment to say, okay, this is how we're going to operate.
And realistically,
and it's
what we're
worked.
making a commitment to is reliability, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
that's what's
Yep.
most important to
Yep.
us. We're actually getting back to the power watches, power warnings, the idea of load shed and rolling blackouts, because we've all heard the term rolling blackout before. We're actually in the early stages of making some agreements with some of our larger customers, industrial customers, or people like that actually they're willing to say, they're willing to take a hit in order to lessen the impact on the community of Muscatine, which is a huge thing for them to do, to be quite honest.
It is. It absolutely is.
Because if the brass tacks of a load shed event is that we're going to have to make a decision on an area of town that we're going to cut power to. And if you live in Muscatine, there isn't an area of town that doesn't have an old folks home on it.
Right.
There isn't an area of town that doesn't have a school or a daycare. So there's no good place for something like that to happen. So unfortunately, if that day comes and we have to make that decision, it's going to be a very unpopular decision. But what industry has partnered with MPW to do is to lessen that impact and shorten it, so that hopefully the people of Muscatine can continue to go about their daily lives and be less aware of the impact that's actually
and that's
happening.
one thing that, for all the industry that's here, across the board, as a general rule of thumb, they do a tremendous job of being that partner, right? Like,
Definitely.
with any organization, there's always one little thing or two little things that you can complain about them about, right? Fine.
Yeah.
But as a rule, we're all trying to make this better for Muscatine, right? You may not agree on how to do it, details, semantics, things like that, but I don't think there's anybody in this community generally that wakes up saying, I want to screw Muscatine, definitely, but they're all waking up saying, how do we make this better? And if we can do a little something, we're going to do it.
Yeah,
So-
everybody has that same vision that, you know, what's good for Muscatine inevitably is going to be good for all of us. You know, it's kind of cliche to say it, but it is the truth. And we have a very, very good relationship with local industry. As you mentioned, for a community our size, we are blessed with a lot of industry. We have a very high load factor because of it. And because we have this industry, that actually allows us to keep our rates lower because we're able to have that stream of income from them. So we have a very, very good relationship with the industry in Muscatine in order to make sure that they're happy, that we're providing them with a reliable product that they want, and also then they can be a benefit to the rest of
And
the
something that, like, I'll never forget, I was at a board meeting one time for covering something, I don't remember exactly, but the issue of like price came up, you know, comparing, holy cow, we've been talking. Chris, you must have turned that on early. I did some quick research and like, you know, what do we pay per kilowatt hour here? Like for regular, it was like 13, 16, something.
Yeah,
I don't remember the exact
my wife
numbers,
pays the bills.
but it was like, I looked up like LA and the other, and it's like 24, 25. I mean, it's literally like 65, 70% higher. So, you know, as always, you guys have done a great job for Muscatine and we really appreciate it. You know, if nobody else will say it, I will. So,
Thank you.
guys, thanks for stopping in. It's always a blast. Keep an eye out, not that we think you're going to see them, but if there is a power thing, just watch Facebook if you have power, or use your phone because it'll still have some battery, right?
Yeah, and again, the simple things you can do.
Yep.
If it's the summertime, raise your thermostat a couple degrees, wait to do laundry. Look around, are lights being left on, unnecessary electronic lights. Try to avoid opening and closing your refrigerator and freezer. That compressor doesn't have to run as often. If you have a freezer that's sitting plugged in, like I know people who do, that there's nothing in it, go ahead and unplug it. There's really no reason to keep it cold. So little things that you can do, you'd be amazed if everybody chips in and does their part, how much of an impact we can make.
That's awesome. Well, guys, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
I'm sure we'll do it again
You bet.
because this stuff never gets old. It always, I'm always flabbergasted by it. Maybe I'm just easy to flabbergast. I don't know. But we will be right back with Kelsey Myers and a quick recap of the Muscatine County Fair, which was nuts. We'll see you in just a minute.
Did we mention quality matters?
Welcome to our Cut Quality Center. Let's take a closer look.
Our mowers provide superior
Laser precision cut quality.
for a perfectly manicured lawn.
Let's break this down in science terms. This grass is cut good. This grass is cut not as good.
Hustler Turf. Mow like a pro.
Stop in to Muscatine Lawn and Power at 2020 Stewart Road to see Hustler quality for yourself.
It's time for an update from the Not So Late Show with Austin, brought to you by Unity Point Health.
Listen up, everyone. I've got some news. Things are still kind of crazy out there, and the pandemic is still going on. And it's hard to keep people healthy. And right now, things are really tough for healthcare workers. There are a lot of people needing help with their health. They are working very hard. They're tired. And they are working extra shifts. Well, that would be like when you just get right out of school. You have to go back and do it all over again. Ugh. So there's something you need to know. It's time to be kind. Healthcare workers are doing the best they can to help you. They just need your help too. Take care of yourself however you can with your vaccinations and your healthy habits. But if you get sick, go see your doctor. If you have to wait, be patient. Be a patient patient. They're real people just like you. And do you know why they're working so hard? For you. So show them a little love, or at least a little bit of kindness. That's one way we can all feel better. Okay, that's all I've got, everyone. Stay safe out there and remember to be kind to healthcare workers.
This has been a special update from the Not So Late Show with Austin. Good night. We'll see.
One day I will learn, I promise I will become a better host and I will learn how to manage commercial breaks better. I promise. I don't know what I'm going to do. But this is a lady who, about every 51 weeks, she gets to hang out with me for about 4 or 5 days and put up with this quite a bit. But the nice thing I think for her is it's intermixed with like 20,000 other people, so hopefully you don't notice too much. How are you, Kelsey?
I'm good. How about you?
Good. If you could introduce yourself for everybody and a little bit of what you do.
Yeah, so I'm Kelsey Myers. I'm the Muscatine County Fair manager. So, you know, it pretty much takes all year to plan for the best 5 days out of the whole summer. And that's pretty much what I tell everybody. 'Cause, I mean, I do love the fair.
It's not wrong.
Yeah, no, I love the fair. And we had a great fair it's actually 2 weeks ago now. So
It feels like it was yesterday.
yeah, it really does, because I mean, honestly, you know, fair got over and then we started, you know, cleaning up and preparing for next year already. Literally 2 days after the fair got over, we had our first committee meeting to start planning for the 2024 fair. So,
Well, you know, it's funny, you guys were behind because I was starting to plan for next year's fair while I was sitting out there.
that's fantastic.
So, you know, the fair is something that, you know, I don't know if people realize what a little gem it is, right? Like, it's a solid 5 days of good stuff to do that's the culmination of a year of stuff. Like, and not just the planning preparation, that stuff, but like when you go to watch like the 4-H and FFA
those
contests
kids,
and like
those kids work all year to make those projects happen and for them to be a success, and they take a lot of pride in that. And you know, this is the one place that those kids get to showcase what they've worked all year for, really. And it's a really neat thing to see, you know. And it's a traditional thing, you know. It's
Right.
tradition to come do those things, but it also has like a lot of good entertainment to go along with it. It's just good family. Fun and good family experiences together.
And the thing that always brightens my day is the fact that these kids, like I was watching, I don't know, it was some sort of beef show. I don't know which one it was, but these kids are ridiculously awesome all the way around the horn.
Yep.
They're responsible, they're articulate, they've learned how to like take care of another living thing, and for them it's just another day. Like,
and I mean, that's one of the big things 4-H and FFA teaches, you know, kids. It teaches them to be responsible, you know, take care of something other than their self. You know, it gives them all those qualities that they need to go on and, you know, hold a job or be a responsible adult. I mean, they are the next generation, and it teaches them all those things that they need, you know, to grow up and be successful and be employable employees, or, you know, or run businesses or be CEOs and all of that sort of stuff. So,
and why it's probably gonna nail me for this, but what blows my mind, so many of you know Wyatt's 11, he's going into 6th grade. One of his classmates is Bailey Danner,
okay, yep.
who is, I don't know how she did this. This girl was the grand champion for market beef and the reserve grand champion.
She had 2, yep.
Yeah, like, it seems like that should be like, I don't know, illegal or something. But, I mean, she's like taking care of, like, Wyatt couldn't, like, I mean, he can handle the dogs maybe, but, you know, these kids just do. I mean, she's 11, 12, and the sweetest girl you'll ever meet, and knows her stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, if you walk through any of the barns, you'll find multiple kids, you know, just like her. I mean, you know what I mean? They, you know, whether they're walking their lambs or their goats or their pigs, I mean, it doesn't require mom and dad to be like, hey, you need to, you know, go feed your animal, you need to water it, you need to walk it, you need to wash it. You know, the kids just, they get up and they know, and they get up early, and they truly do take pride in their, you know, in their projects and in their work. And you can see that all week long, because they have the biggest smiles on their faces. They want to share it with like all their friends and all, you know, all the people attending the fair, because like they do take a lot of pride in their project.
Yeah.
And you can even
And
see
they
that in the
should.
show. Yeah. And in the show ring, you know, as they show, I mean, they just, you know, that's their animal. You know, they got there because they put in the time and the effort, and they're very proud of that.
Yeah, and it's, you know, I can't even go through this list. We've got it on Discover Muscatine. There are like 7, I don't even know how many contests there are, but I mean, lamb sheep, like, it's a diverse project set, you know, like we had some of the 4-H girls on, or pardon me, FFA girls on before the fair.
Yep.
and like they're in high school, they all had a different sheep, like they knew everything and they were excited. One of them was going to state, like, and it goes on beyond just that week at the fair. Like,
yeah, so actually people are working on heading up to State Fair this week because State Fair starts this Thursday. So there are a lot of projects that had to go through county fair, so our county fair was 2 weeks ago, that had to go through county fair, get judged, and for them to be able to participate in State Fair. And then there's other projects like the livestock projects. You didn't necessarily have to go to county fair, but the majority of them all do because it's good practice for when you get to State Fair. So yeah, that next big step is State Fair for a lot of those kids. And so like I said, I mean, a lot of them head up like today, tomorrow, and start showing, Thursday and through the weekend and all next week. And
another thing that I'm sure people have picked up, I love learning things. And, just standing out there, I was watching the calf show, Toby Lehman, you guys all know from basketball, announcing with us and stuff.
Yep.
He and I were talking and like, he's teaching me all about like, how old is this calf? Like, I don't know any of that stuff, but it's like, I mean, that girl's like 9 months old and it's already like a monster. And he's like, yeah, well, it's a little this. And then Sam Paul, who I went to school with, who's one of the FFA advisors out at the high school, he hopped over and he came on the air for a little bit and was talking about some of that stuff. And, I think that was probably the record for most times eyes can be rolled at me in one conversation. But, it's just stuff you don't know if you don't know.
Right.
And it's,
but it's a good place to come and learn, if you don't know those things, because everybody's willing to teach you or show you. And like I said, it just like the experience in the environment is just something that's hard to explain.
And if that wasn't enough, the food is amazing.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and not just the fair food. I mean, there was like barbecue. Classic. Fair food.
There were like the cattleman grilled ribeyes one day, pork producers grilled another day. But yeah, if you want your traditional fair food, I mean, there's chicken on a stick, there's funnel cakes, there's, anything,
I don't know
buckets of cookies, buckets of French fries.
I don't know. I can't remember who the barbecue. I've actually got their card in my wallet.
Pit Crew Barbecue.
Yes. Oh my goodness, so good.
Yes.
Get their brisket on onion rings, and oh my goodness, so good. But anyway, I'm not a foodie at all. So. Let's talk about the grandstand for a minute, though, because the grandstand this year
was out of this world phenomenal. One of the best fairs that we've had in a very, very long time.
You started off Wednesday night was
the stock car races.
The stock car races. Thursday night was the donkey races, which was a riot.
Yeah, Thursday nights can be hard to pull a crowd. Everyone has to go to work on Friday. Everybody's been at work on Thursday. They're tired, don't necessarily want to come out. But I tell you what, like the donkey races, it's just a Thursday night I've never seen at the fair before.
Yeah,
the grandstand was packed. I had several people texting me, "Hey, didn't know that we were going to have to come like 2 hours early to get a seat."
You absolutely did.
People were just so excited to see them. We had local hometown celebrities.
There was probably 50 people-ish.
Yeah, there's 50. Yep, there's 50 people
there's like
exactly.
3 heats they're riding donkeys. They literally just had to get one lap. Which one lap, not like in the whole track, like down the straightaway and back, and not even the full straightaway, about half of it. And some of them it took like 15 minutes to get.
Yeah, and they'd fall off head first,
I'm so thankful that luckily I get to walk in with a camera and I can kind of go sit wherever I want to make sure we get pictures. Because yes, it was completely full. There was a line, and everybody was having a riot. Like it was tremendous.
Yeah, no, it was a great time, and like I said, first time we've ever done donkey races in front of the grandstand.
Yeah.
The response was fantastic.
Yeah, keep that on the list of stuff.
It was great.
And then Friday night was tractor pull.
And again, like we had a bigger than normal crowd for that as well. I mean, the crowd was phenomenal for that. It was a good show. We had lots of good hooks. People really liked the speed and the black smoke. I mean, that's really what they,
Yeah, it's a fair thing.
Yeah,
it's absolutely a fair thing.
Yeah, and so it was a great tractor pull.
And then Saturday night,
we just knocked it out of the park with Josh Turner. Number one, great artist, great music.
Yep.
The response from the public was fantastic. I mean, we just had a phenomenal crowd, and it was exciting to see. It's it's one of those things like we pray for every year, and
Yeah.
it's just one of those things. Like the turnout
weather was amazing. It all
great.
worked, and I try and give people a little. I'm lucky enough that with what we do, I get to go places that people don't normally get to go, right? And you get to see things from a different perspective, right? So like when most people see the full crowd, you're seeing the back of everybody's heads, right? And that's cool, right? It's like the sea of heads, and it's full.
Until
and
you
it's
get
cool.
out front, and it's.
And when you and I don't know if I was supposed to or not, but I went up into the crow's nest during the concert. So I was up, I don't know what, 60
like above
feet.
the stage,
Yeah, above the stage, behind them, and able to look out and see the faces of everybody in those first 7-8 rows.
Yeah, it's just a sea of people is all
And
there was.
Just joy. I mean, crazy, happy, fun. And that's what the fair is. Like, I'll be honest, I wasn't a fair kid growing up. Like, that wasn't our thing. But I look forward to it every year. And it's not because I know squat about any of it, but it's just a bunch of good people that are having fun. You can go out, hang out with, and you learn stuff, and you have a good time.
Fun.
And it is. And, then, that wasn't enough. Then you roll into Sunday, which Sunday was just... Sunday morning's the demo derby. And now this doesn't count like the Grove where you've got like local musicians all the time.
Right.
Like Wednesday, Thursday, you've got the pie contests. Like, I mean,
there's
the carnival, like all that stuff. But then you roll into Sunday, and you would think, Sunday's going to be like the letdown day. It's like just kind of.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like there was still church in the Grove. But
there was church in the Grove. Yeah.
But when that got over, we rolled right on into the demo derby.
The demo derby. Nuts as always.
Yes.
And then I had never I'd heard of trailer races before, but I did not have any idea what they actually were. Somebody tried to explain them to me, and I'm like, wait, you mean they're like driving around with trucks and trailers behind them, but like a demo derby? And they're like, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Pure excitement.
Yeah.
Pure adrenaline. That is exactly what it is. These guys had, like, one of them had a camper behind that was painted like the Mystery Machine from Scooby-Doo. One had like a water tank. There were about 4 boats.
Had a big like blow-up duck on them.
And they're driving around in trailers, and they're literally trying. The whole goal is to knock the other dudes. I'm assuming most of them were. I don't think there were any women in it, but if there were, they're dudes for today.
We did have some ladies that were in the demo.
In the demo derby, I knew that
we had
for sure.
a lady demo derby class.
Yep. You're literally just trying to knock the trailer off the truck.
Yeah, I mean, they were driving up into the campers, or they would drive up and hit the boats. Or if the boat fell off, we would literally take the skid steer out, pick up the boat,
and put it in the middle of the
track, so that when they came around, immediately that's what they did.
And there was an absolute moment that I think everybody in the crowd.
Like you forget to take pictures and videos because
I didn't.
You're so engrossed into it.
And what happened? So they all come down, and so of course imagine you know it's like on snow ice taking a left, right? Imagine that with a trailer on dirt, whatever. One of the trailers got loose, and then like 3 of them
just hit it.
It just hit it right in behind it, and they didn't just like hit it. They literally like went up on top of it. And they piled up. It had to have been a
like
solid 3D, and probably 25, 30 feet in the air is what they pushed up to. Everybody just silent in the crowd for like
and then this
30
huge
seconds.
Like uproar.
Yeah, like as soon as everybody saw like people moving and like everybody was okay, because of course they've got safety gear and all that stuff, and the fire department's there, and they put out fires, whatever. Everybody was like dead silent, and we're all looking at each other like, pardon my... And then it's like, whoa! Like it's like watching a train wreck, but better, because it's like literally right there, and you can sit down and you can have like ice cream while you're doing it.
Right.
So if that isn't fun, if I haven't sold it, you're nuts.
I mean, like I've told everybody, if you've never been to the fair and you only have one day, don't miss the trailer races, and you better come early because it is hard to get your seat. Like
it is.
The grandstand's packed, the bleachers are packed. There's people up like standing in the grass area.
Yeah.
The place is full.
Yeah, just not by the end of turn 1, because that's not a good idea.
When I tell you there's 4,000 to 5,000 people there, like that's probably on the lighter end of how many people are actually there in the. I mean, it's.
Which, when you think about it, that's like 1 out of 4 people in Muscatine County is there. It's absolutely crazy.
It is probably one of the largest events in Muscatine County.
I can't think of anything larger. Like the only thing we were actually talking about this. the holiday stroll that we do has gotten pretty big, and I mean, it always was, but it's gotten even bigger. And to me, almost every day at the fair seems like that. And I mean, almost Friday Fest, of course, is large.
So we've seen like 30,000 people is what we've seen. 30,000 plus
nuts.
People is what we've seen in just 5 days.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And it's hard to fathom. I mean, because literally that's like taking Muscatine and putting them at the Muscatine County Fair.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah, no, it's great.
So what have you started kicking around? Like, there's new stuff coming up for the fair, right? Like, what are you guys working on?
Yeah. So obviously, like, we're still working on getting our entertainment figured out for the 2024 fair. Other big things we have going on at the grounds is, as everybody's well aware, we've been working on trying to figure out, what do we do with the activity center? And so that's what we tried to roll out during fair, was just kind of give everybody a little insight into what we are looking at as far as like a new facility, where it might be located and such. And so we're just trying to let everybody know that we are working on that. And like I said, keep checking back in with us, or if you're interested in participating in that as we move forward, we will try to roll out our fundraising for that facility here in the very near future. So when that time comes, we'll obviously be back.
I was just saying, I'm sure we can find time to make sure that people know about it.
Yeah, we will obviously be back and whatnot. So yeah, as we get further down the road, like, we will be letting people know. But again, if anyone's interested in helping us in any sort of fashion, be sure to reach out to the Muscatine County Fair. And
website, Facebook, you can find her. It's pretty easy.
Yep.
So, holy cow, Kelsey, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
It's always a blast. I started actually prepping. I learned my lesson last year, right? Like, I called United Rentals and I'm like, hey, all right, here's what I need. I need a golf cart. I need a big old fan. I need a trailer to get it all out there.
I need all the things.
I need all the things. Make it happen. And Jake's like, okay, sure. And so he does roll in. I think I got it Wednesday morning. Rolled in, pulled out, dropped it off. And what was great was all week just watching people swing over it was one of those big cooling swamp cooler things. Yep. And what was really cool was, apparently it was a new trailer that they gave me to take the thing out. Like, 3 people stopped me as I'm pulling out, like, where'd you get that trailer? Like, can I rent that? I'm like, yeah, here's Jake's car. And they're like, that's a big deal. That's like a wide. And I'm like, it's a golf cart trailer to me, but whatever, right? But just prepare for it. Go have fun. Get your fun pass. It's amazing.
Yeah, if you're interested in being a fair sponsor, I mean, be sure to reach out to us or give us a call and we can reach out to you, because that is another big thing that helps the fair be successful. And like you're talking about advertising, like, that's a huge thing, and that's something we do with our sponsors, is advertising through the large signs, and that has grown exponentially.
The sponsor list is literally like this
4 pages long.
Like, it's so funny when they start reading them during like the events. It takes like 4 breaks to get all the way through the sponsors, which is awesome.
But I mean, that just shows you the kind of support that the fair has, and like, the big impact that it has on, our county and our community as a whole.
Yeah. So keep it up. Just keep doing it. Maybe like triple it for next year. I don't know, but
we'll see what we can do.
Yeah. I've got some ideas. I'll make sure I get them over, and I can't wait. Like, it's already on the calendar for next year.
Fantastic. Yeah. July 17th through 21st, 2024.
Like, we literally were already making graphics for it.
Yep.
So,
no, it's great.
Kelsey, it's been a blast as always.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, anytime. And Muscatine, that's your Today Show for today. And if that's not enough, I don't know what more you need. So